The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Hope you all are having an amazing day. It is finally hump day, you guys. That's right. It's Wednesday, December 13th, and today is the National Guard's birthday. It's also National Violin Day for all those friends out there that love to play the world's smallest violin. It's National Cocoa Day. I'm not sure why they didn't put the hot in front of it. And it's also National Day of the Horse. And, Rico, your favorite, it's Pick a Pathologist Day. Well,
why is it gotta be my favorite?
Sounds like it should be your favorite,
pathologist?
bro. Yeah, yes, you're choosing that path. Pathologist, yes, that's right.
Weird. A proctologist.
Oh, that's right. It's better than a proctologist, Dale. You're so right about that. And thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You look down below to see where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube. And now we're also streaming on Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. So welcome to anyone joining us from any one of those audiences. But kicking it off today, first we have the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte, the Quasimodo caretaker, and the person who loves to recuse himself when it is necessary. That's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
Yeah, Jason. I do have to recuse myself from certain conversations because, you know what? I can't get caught dry snitching on nobody. But that being said, speaking of dry snitching, we're going to talk about Arizona this morning, where dope dads and marijuana mamas in the great state of Arizona can rest a little bit easier this morning. You know why? Because the Arizona Department of Child Safety had a recent announcement, and they said that they'll soon end its practice of investigating reports of cannabis exposure in newborns, as long as there are no other allegations of risk to the child. The shift in policy is scheduled for next month and comes in the wake of a state court of appeals ruling that found Arizona's medical cannabis law protects such use because the patient is under a doctor's care. The state Supreme Court declined to review that decision, effectively making the appeals ruling the new legal standard. Let's give it up for Arizona parents responsibly consuming and still taking care of their families. How about a round of applause for that?
A round of applause. There we go.
Yes. A huge load off of all their backs moving forward. And Catherine Patak, the general counsel for the state's child welfare agency, DCS, says that the organization believes under Rigel, we do not have the authority to investigate prenatal exposure. The Rigel she was referring to was a case involving a pregnant woman who was using medicinal cannabis to ease the effects of hypermesis gravidarum, a condition that causes severe nausea and vomiting during pregnancy. Lindsay Rigel, a former DCS worker herself, was told in her hospital bed after delivery that her infant son had tested positive for THC and that the case would be opened against her. She didn't lose custody of the child, but DCS told her that she'd be placed on the Arizona Central Registry, a list identifying people deemed as a threat to vulnerable populations, including children and elderly. Per the article, placement on the registry lasts 25 years and it can limit employment options. Rigel fought the listing, and more than 3 years after the son's birth, she won. TAC said, given the court ruling, the agency under new Governor Katie Hobbs was obliged to follow the law. She also said the agency gets between 350 and 400 reports of substance-exposed newborns every month, and about 60% of those involve marijuana. Very few of those reports result in the child actually being removed from his home, but it's still about 4% that have been moved because of marijuana exposure. So as a dope dad myself, and quite frankly, the dopest dad on the street, period, it's good to see more states moving towards protecting parents from abuse allegations tied to cannabis consumption. I wish they would have taken a step further to include all consumers and not just those with a medical card, like the state of California has recently, last year. But it is at least a step in the right direction. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad in the street for High at 9 News. Getting things started on a high note today. What's the rest of the team think about this one?
Man, this is great news.
You know I love this.
This might be the only time that I've been able to witness that Katie Hobbs has followed the law.
Bravo. Listen, it was absolutely ridiculous that they were putting people on a pedophile list because they consumed cannabis. Yeah. Are you kidding me right now? That is such a misrepresentation and a waste of resources that, I mean, I applaud AZ on this. Way to go. Way to really step up and make it to where people aren't dealing with these kind of issues anymore. And I agree with you, Rico. I think it has to go a step further and be not just medicinal. It should be any cannabis use, because we don't know how the cannabis was consumed. It could have been consumed with edibles. So, and there's been no studies and no research that definitively states that edible use during pregnancy causes some type of harm to the fetus. So, of course, we can all agree that smoking anything while pregnant is not the best things to do. It would be unhealthy, in my opinion. However, just because somebody has cannabis in their system and a newborn tests positive for it as well, does not mean that person deserves to be on a list with rapists and pedophiles and people who harm elderly people and this other thing too, that really debilitates them to integrate and be a member of their community. I'm glad AZ did this. Once again, bravo.
And at the same time, Luke, it really diminishes the charges that those people have actually faced when they're conflated with something as minor as cannabis in the system.
Yeah, they did studies in Jamaica in the 1980s.
Yep.
Melanie Dreyer did that, and they followed these kids sequentially. They all met their milestones, and they went on to now be adults without any. And these people were consuming cannabis all day long. And in a medical sense, when you have hyperemesis gravitorum, which is the word you stumbled with there, Rico, and you puke your guts out because you're pregnant, okay? The medicines they give you have all sorts of side effects. Smoking weed and titrating until you're not sick anymore has no medical evidence of harm to the fetus. To throw them into this kind of a trap, it's just beating up a pregnant woman. I mean, it's as bad as that woman out of Texas said they wouldn't let have an abortion. This is the kind of shit where we don't need anybody else involved with a woman's reproductive system be seen other than her and her doctor. Get the fuck out of the lab. I've had daughters have to deal with this when they were pregnant. It scares the shit out of you. Now, we do family law in our firm now, and it's like, you want to raise that bitch? Let's have a battle, okay? Because it makes no difference if I smoke weed or if I drink scotch or whatever. Okay, fuck you. We're going to have a war now because I'm a dad who had, custody of children, and this is not funny. This is a mess. CPS showed up at my door because my kid was smoking weed. They caught him with weed off the campus, so I got CPS at my fucking door. Like, why? He's a teenager smoking weed. Okay, so what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like the first time you've seen that happen.
Yeah.
No, you used to pinch my weed all the time, the little shits.
That's right.
I think it's also really important. as the woman on the panel, to explain to you guys that the diagnosis that she was treating is deadly. It actually could kill her. It is very painful. It's very dangerous for the baby. And as somebody who has also had a number of pregnancies myself and dealt with all the symptomology that goes with it, it is a physical ailment on your body when you're going through pregnancy. Everything hurts. You don't feel good. Your feet to the top of your head hurts. Your hips hurt because they're literally being pushed apart. Like, imagine your bones from the inside being stretched, okay? Like, you guys can't even imagine what that feels like.
Right. And I thought that's why they called it woman power.
Then you add on top of that, like, extreme nausea, okay? My physician actually prescribed me bed rest for 3 months because I lost so much weight in my first pregnancy that I was sick and couldn't keep anything down, and prescribed me Zofran, which now is known to cause major birth defects, and lawyers help families get restoration for prescribing that. Okay? Weed, there actually has been lots of studies, just not anything that has been allowed to be put public and taken to a medical physician and said, this is now what you need to be believing, right? There has been plenty of studies, and there's been plenty of anecdotal studies going on for mothers and midwives for generations. Thousands of years. So
it doesn't fit the narrative.
The argument, there's no research.
Shout out
and also, don't prescribe me something that could potentially harm my baby and then come and tell me that I can't use a plant to help myself.
You know, that's a really good point, Manndie. That is a really, really, really good point, because they give moms a lot of different pharmaceutical drugs when giving birth and throughout the pregnancy.
Yeah, I was prescribed 3 different bottles of pills and sent home.
See what I'm saying?
Women have been using this substance for thousands of years. Hell, they found it in a tomb of a woman who died of cephalopelvic disproportion in the 1 AD. I mean, they were smoking hash to get women to start going into labor. They were using this for nausea because, you know what? It fucking works for nausea. I mean, let's not be. Yeah. And for thousands of years, you can't say, oh, we had a kid with little, their hands attached to their shoulder. Thalidomide.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? It fucked up.
My wife is actually watching the. My wife is actually watching the show.
The other thing that's really important in this article, like, this is a total dovetail off of the article that has nothing to do with the story, so I apologize, Rico, but I'm just really passionate about this topic. And the fact is that we sit here as a society and accept that over 90% of births in the US are a result of an epidural, which is like a fucking 24-something inch needle, or I don't know exactly how many inches, but it's hella long, and they shove that up your spine, and you're paralyzed from the waist down for hours. Right. They don't allow you to try to get up and walk after you have a baby with an epidural. This is incredibly dangerous. It's going in your spine. When you could actually use cannabis during labor and delivery to manage pain, to manage anxiety. There's so many methods that this plant could be helping people during labor and delivery and should be used by every mother. I don't give a fuck what your symptom is. It would.
What I said. So my wife actually tapped in.
Than what our current practices are right now.
Yeah, my wife actually tapped in, and she's watching the show today, and she said that she reminded me that we actually used it when she was giving birth to my daughter, too, because the stuff that they were given wasn't. We did not want to go heavy on the narcotics, and it actually helped with our natural childbirth that we went through as well. So. Another use case directly from somebody within the system, too.
This is also why a lot of moms are starting to opt out towards midwives and home births, because they're sick and tired of people making them feel like they're bad mothers because they're refusing pills and injections and all of this in the hospital room. It's messed up. What people do to new moms in the hospital, it's disgusting. I had a nurse actually scold me because I was trying to nurse my baby for the first time, and she insisted that he wasn't getting enough nourishment and tried to make me feel like I was starving my kid and kept trying to make me feed him formula. What that does to a new mom, that's just... Anyway,
the government needs to stay out of our doctors. What did Mitt Romney say, Jason? Your boy Mitt Romney. The government needs to stay.
All corporations are people.
The doctor's office is way too small to have the woman's doctor and the government to be in there at the same time.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. What's the matter with that saying, Rico?
I was quoting it. Yeah, it's your boy Mitt Romney. Okay. I didn't think nothing wrong with Mitt Romney.
I didn't realize Mitt Romney was my guy. He's kind of a rhino, but nonetheless, you know what I mean?
I took the bait.
Yeah, baby. You know what it is. You know what it is. You know what it is.
Oh, man.
We're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Make sure you wrap that gun before you insert it, right,
yes,
Luke?
Yes, that's right. Shout out to all the MILFs on the shelf.
MILFs on the shelf.
Yeah, MILFs on the shelf.
Get your High at 9 MILF on the shelf.
Yeah, new product coming out from High at 9 News. Check out it on the website.
You guys know how to make me smile. Coming up next, that's a stocking stuffer if I've ever heard one.
I see what
he is the industry's longest continuously operating retailer, known for smoking the best weed in the world. Every time you see him, you know who he's checking his phone for.
That's right. The boss.
Donald Trump.
The boss.
Donald Trump and all the advancements on his indictments. Coming to the stage, you know who it is, Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah. You know, Rico.
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney is not a master of the mugshot, just so you know, Rico, just for the record. Okay. But I got a really fascinating story, and we have talked about this last week about this. And so I found a story that the Cato Institute put together, and I feel like it gives it a good description about this. And we're going to talk about the States Act 2.0, you guys, would make federal government more in sync with the states and the people on marijuana. That's right. December 7th, 2023, Representative Dave Joyce, Republican from Ohio, joined four colleagues, Earl Blumenauer, Democrat out of Oregon, Brian Mast, Republican out of Florida, and Lori Chavez, Republican out of Oregon, and Troy Carter, Democrat from Louisiana, introduced a revised version of the Strengthening the 10th Amendment through Entrusting States, better known as the States Act. And its name implies the bill seeks to bring U.S. marijuana policy more in line with the 10th Amendment and federalism. The 10th Amendment states, and this is a quote, you guys, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." That's the end of the 10th Amendment, you guys. The bill, which some call the States Act 2.0, removes marijuana as a substance covered by the Federal Controlled Substances Act. This means marijuana will no longer be on the Drug Enforcement Administration's list of controlled substances. While the Biden administration has been open to the idea of rescheduling marijuana, the States Act would deschedule it, a move we have all long advocated for. It would also federally decriminalize people using, selling, or transferring marijuana if it is legal in their state, territory, or tribal reservation, and if they comply with state regulations. Moreover, it allows for interstate commerce of marijuana, you guys. That is right. That's the big one right there. The legislation states, in general, no state or Indian tribe may prohibit the transportation or shipment of marijuana through the state or the territory of the Indian tribe as applicable, if the originating and destination states or territories permit as applicable the manufacture, production, possession, distribution, dispensation, administration, or delivery of marijuana. The bill authorizes the federal government to regulate and track interstate marijuana commerce to make sure the commerce remains between jurisdictions where it is legal, and the bill also removes existing federal obstacles to marijuana retailers' financial transactions involving financial institutions by declaring that federal law will not consider transactions that are compliant with state laws to be drug trafficking, and such transactions will not be subject to the part of the Internal Revenue Service Code that addresses revenue and expenses connected to federally prohibited drug sales. That would basically mean the removal of 280E for anyone that doesn't understand that. The bill authorizes the FDA, the Food Drug Administration, to regulate marijuana as it does other non-prescription and prescription drugs, as well as tobacco products. While I believe the FDA and the drug regulatory system need drug reformation, that is a matter for a separate discussion, they say. The legislation also maintains a federal prohibition on the sale of marijuana to people under the age of 21 and on the distribution or sale of marijuana and transportation safety facilities such as truck rest areas on highways. These are both matters of which Congress should defer to the states. When Congress repealed alcohol prohibition in 1933, it respected states' rights to regulate and prohibit alcohol use and commerce within its borders, and the States Act exhibits the same federalist perspective. After 1933, several states continued to prohibit alcohol within their boundaries. In 1966, Mississippi became the last state to end alcohol prohibition. Still, many Mississippi counties remain dry until 2020, when Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves signed a bill legalizing alcohol possession in all state counties, and by now 46 states have passed laws that legalize or decriminalize marijuana or marijuana-based products to some degree and under some circumstances. The States Act respects states' rights to prohibit, legalize, or regulate marijuana, mostly from the federal government interface, and the bill also allows for a federal excise tax on marijuana to help fund a framework that supports critical components such as proper administration and oversight, consumer safety protections, and enforcement. Several states that have legalized adult use marijuana have imposed exorbitant marijuana taxes along with erroneous regulations on retailers, which have increased the price of consumers and driven them to the cheaper black market. As I have written here, the unintended consequences of excessive taxation are weakening the legal market in favor of the black market and lower government revenues. Notably, the authors of the States Act seem aware of this, and the legislation states the federal excise tax should be low enough to not exacerbate the level of taxation by states, thereby avoiding the pyramid effect of adding federal taxes on top of high state taxes. States Act 2.0 significantly improves the original version, which its bipartisan support, and with 70% of American adults supporting marijuana legalization, the bill provides an excellent opportunity for Washington politicians to catch up on the people within this issue. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News. What do you guys think of this States Act 2.0, and will it be a go?
I like most of it.
How the rest of you feel, but I feel like this is the best possible proposal I've seen so far.
This is not the best possible proposal so far. The best possible proposal so far is the States Reform Act that Nancy Mace has introduced, because that has a super low excise tax rate and would deschedule cannabis and also open up interstate trade.
Well,
I do like this bill, though. But because they did not stipulate what the excise tax is, they just said it should be low. I kind of wonder about that. So this is getting a strong second place in my vote, but I would totally support this. I would vote for it, and I would campaign for it and endorse it.
Jay, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't this bill based upon Nancy Mace's legislation?
It's very possible that it is based around it, but what it really is a reversion of the States Act, and the States Act previously hampered down commerce at state lines and whatnot. So it is a evolved version of the States Act.
Yeah. So I agree with you, and I agree with Manndie. I think so. Thus far, Nancy Mace and what this has morphed into now is the best legislation that we have currently. Mm-hmm. It's not great, it's not perfect, but coming out of the federal government and really coming out of the Senate and the House, we're not getting really good federal legislation. Most of like the stuff that Cory Booker had, the stuff that Schumer had, none of those blanketed, none of those let out people from prison. It left it up to the courts. It decided certain charges could get out and certain charges couldn't. It was in the justice aspect of those other bills, I could not support them because it allowed certain people who were incarcerated for cannabis to get out, and others still had to go petition the court, and others still would have had to remain in there and do their time. So I'm not going to support anything that leaves anyone in prison for cannabis. So that's where, as far as the justice aspect of the States Act and this States Act 2.0, I 100% support. I also like the fact that they're leaving this up to the states in the majority of the bill. Mm-hmm. There are some federal regulations that are triggered. We don't like those, but it's whatever. If it's a compromise to get to where we need to go, I think it's a compromise that we need to make, because it gives so much power to the states, and in the same aspect, it allows us still to have interstate commerce, and it makes places like Nebraska not be able to say, "Hey, you guys can't transport even through my state," or "Hey, you guys can't come through this airspace," or whatever they would come up with those, mindless laws they would come up with.
The craziest part is that the Commerce Clause is what got all 50 states to join the union in the first place, is to be able to use the federal road system. And so that's really what we're fighting for, is to be able to say, hey, you know what, if we don't want to have weed in Kansas, that's fine, but we shouldn't be prohibited from transporting it through Kansas to get it to Ohio.
Yeah, I think I think it's good on the surface. We'll see how much gets stripped out of it when it heads over.
Oh boy,
to whatever.
There we go.
I'm
was waiting for that.
We'll see.
He's right. Rico's right. By the time this gets to the finish line, this could look nothing like it does right now.
And the other thing I want to say, like, nothing medical was mentioned in it, and nothing really helping out communities was mentioned in it at all. So just remember that.
Rico, you're right. You're right there. In the article, it didn't state that. If it is a vamp of Nancy Mace's bill, it does have all that included into it. I haven't looked at the 2.0 version, so I can't really comment on it knowledgeably. So but I do know if it's based on the foundation of Nancy Mace's bill, it does include all those criminal justice aspects and social justice aspects of it. So hopefully they included those. If they didn't, that's a big miss.
When she revised it before, like this version, when she revised it, she actually did strip out all the community stuff, and then she stripped out all of the stuff pertaining to federal charges and shit like that. It was just strictly business. So like I think they're going forward with the business angle on it, which, I mean, it is what it is. And this is the best piece of legislation I've seen. And if you have, like, shout out to Lori, whatever her name is, the one Republican that's co-signing on this one.
What are you talking
brave
about?
enough to co-sign.
This is Dave Joyce's bill. He's a Republican from Ohio.
No, there's a Republican. There's a Republican on it too.
Dave Joyce is a Republican.
Hold on.
Easy.
Brian Mast, and Lori Chavez DeRemer. Shout out to the Republicans actually co-signing
she's a Republican from Oregon.
Bill.
She's a Republican.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In the House, like, actually getting Republicans to co-sign something with the Democrats is absolutely unheard of. So shout out to
100%, Rico. 100%.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
See, I'm trying to give throw you people a bone,
it's
Jason.
Time. Adam, can we get an elephant, please? Can we get an elephant? There we go. And I guess
we really should, we really do need to highlight when Republicans step out there, because listen, there's not a lot of cover for them. So when they step out there, we really should. A lot of people want to say, they flip-flopped or they did this, and point out why they're doing it or all that. Listen, that doesn't matter. They're coming over to help us with our cause. We should welcome that, embrace a diverse opinion on how we should get our ship to where it needs to go, and keep it going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing in life is binary. It's not just one thing or the other. So anybody completely going with Republicans or completely going with Democrats, there's nothing patriotic or democratic about what you're doing. All you're doing is promoting tribalism and promoting a bunch of bullshit that makes everybody hate government. We need to get with it. Need more compromise from the top down, straight up.
Tell that binary comment to the Biden administration. But
don't start. Oh my
God. Nonetheless, we're gonna keep it moving right on into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. He's the founder of Armada Law Practice, and at one point in time, he did some time for a cannabis crime. That's right. It is Mr. Dale Schafer.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a crusty old fart. Luke and I understand the time inside and what that does to you, and how happy we are to see that someone's pulling their head out of their ass in Washington and trying to fix this problem. Anyway, my story today comes out of J.D. Supra, their Cannabis and the Law section, and the headline is Cannabis Brands Beware. Branding, white labeling in New York requires application submittal. by December 18th, 2023. And John Scheuer interviewed a guy named John Kagia, who's the policy director of the Office of Cannabis Management, or whatever the acronym means in New York, about this particular issue. And it seems that they've been flooded with brands from out of state. Shock, the trap always wins, you know. So what it looks like, they say they've been signaling for a while, and now what they're going to do is they're going to require everybody who has a brand in the market in New York to apply for at least a Tier 3 processor license. Now, New York calls manufacturers of the product processors. California, we call them manufacturers. We have 4 tiers, they have 3. But in New York, Tier 1 gets to extract, infuse, package, okay, and sell on into the market. I don't think they get to dispense, but that's a whole other issue. Their Tier 2 gets to infuse, package, and sell into the market. And their Tier 3 gets to package and then sell brands into the market. And what New York has done is it looks like they changed their enabling statutes here to require that anybody who's going to have a brand on a shelf in a legal store in New York is going to have that brand have a Tier 3 at a minimum processor license. Now, I think what they're recognizing is that the brands are going to dump the market, and if you try to get them into these legal shelves, what we've traditionally done is just white label. Someone can come in, hey, I've got a brand that I own, I want to white label it. They never have to be checked out by the market. I mean, not market, but by the people who issue these permits and these licenses. So what we found here in California is there's a lot of people that are doing this, that if you were to scratch and sniff, they would never qualify to be able to get one of these licenses. What looks like what New York's trying to do is to force people to walk through the metal detector and figure out, okay, are you guys somebody we don't want to have involved in this market that's selling these brands? That opens up lots of cans of worms, but it seems that New York is beginning to understand that if you don't at least look for the way that these brands are getting into the marketplace and see what you can do to try and, I guess control is the right word, that this continues to be out of control. This only addresses the legal market. Doesn't have anything, as far as I can tell, directed towards the trap market. I think that's going to continue to be an issue for them, because the trap's going to be able to sell these brands manufactured in California or whatever cheaper in their trap shops than these legal stores are going to be able to sell these branded products that jump through all the hoops in their store. So the unintended consequences are going to continue the trap going. It looks like they're it's playing whack-a-mole, or what I call squeezing a balloon. You squeeze it one place, it pops out someplace else. So I don't know if I'm going to applaud this, but they're recognizing that there are control checkpoints in the market. But when you go in there and put up a barrier to the entry into the legal market, it fans the flames of the trap. So I don't know if I want to applaud this. It's just something that's actually happening. Be warned, if you don't have these applications in by the 18th, which, what is that, this weekend? Yeah. You don't have them in, and you're shit out of luck. If your brand's on a legal store and you don't have one of these in the pipeline, I don't know what their recall mechanisms are, but the government can be real crazy when they come in to take your shit off the shelves. So be warned, and I'll throw it back at you guys. What do you think? This thing is going to work or not?
I mean, go ahead.
I personally think this is just another cash grab, the same way that we have, like Jason, like you mentioned earlier, inflated excise taxes in states so that the government can get their nut at every piece of a supply chain. From my perspective, this is basically saying if you want to be a brand participating in the market, you have to go through some form of background check. So either you got to get partnered into a license as an owner, at which point you're going through the state's background check process, or you have to get your own license. And like you said, the unintended consequences of that is that brands are going to make it to market one way or another. So they're really just perpetuating or creating an avenue to perpetuate the illicit market. And it's a bit respectfully to John Kagia, as a friend of mine. I've known him for years. They're doing the best they can in New York, but I'm not a fan of this law at all.
I mean, this is just absolutely asinine. Okay, they're gonna go and pull product off the shelf that is 2 years old flower that people actually went and has paid an exorbitant number to purchase to get onto the legal market, when all they had to do was just throw some fresh weed into a bag and go and sell it to a bodega, and they would have been probably way more flush on the coin. This is
and all the product safety is going through the licensed producer anyway, right? So if they did a traditional white label arrangement, the person that's producing the product is already addressing any public safety issue that the government might have. So I don't, other than getting a little bit of extra money from an application, I don't see what the purpose of this law is.
They're going after the people that are involved in these brands. Mm-hmm. They want to look up everybody's skirt and then stick a microscope up your ass. I mean, I call it walking through the fucking metal detector. Okay, they want to know who's involved with this. And they're so worried about this. This is why when you have the cops involved in this too much, nothing gets done. The trap just wins, because the cops want you to not only jump through hoops, crawl through fucking tunnels, okay, to get to where they can watch you and not a gram gets out. It's like, this is not that dangerous. You know, why in the hell are we continuing to do this? Because the trap just goes, yeah, man, I'll sell Stizzy on my shelf.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, man. We just talked about that yesterday, Dale.
Well, it's the real deal. I mean, we tell the trap always wins. And when you look at this market, I get tired of yelling at both conservatives and liberals about this. Like, if you tax and regulate the shit out of a business, it's never going to be successful. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what both sides want to do here. I applaud the Republicans. Go, let's make it clean and safe. Throw it in with ATF. They know how to fucking tax the shit out of something, send it across state lines. If I can't sell alcohol in Mississippi, I can damn through drive my 18-wheeler through there.
That's right.
So
it's not
do you know what the policy is in the alcohol industry when someone comes and hires a manufacturer to make their line for them?
My family did this, okay? We would call up a distributor, okay, and say, who are you using that's making bourbon? You had a private label bourbon. And we then would get directed to a distillery in Kentucky. We'd place an order. It would then send to a distributor, put the tax stamp on it, got shipped to us, and it was our alcohol. That's how it worked. Clean and simple. The federal government got their tax. It came across the country, delivered to us, and boom, bing, bang. Win for everybody. None of this horse shit we deal with now.
Facts. And on that,
you're talking about some radicalness, Dale, of things being treated like a regular commodity. You anarchist.
Blasphemy, right?
I mean, New York just keeps on making more of a joke and more of a joke of their market every single day, and they're never going to have an actual regulated marketplace. The trap is going to live forever there, and that's just going to be what it is. And so, honestly,
we're the birthplace of the speakeasy.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And I'm with you, Luke. I want all of us to get our fucking records cleaned. I want to be able to get a gun again. God damn it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is nuts with all of us.
It should be able to.
And on that, we got to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Oh, yeah. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. YouTube appreciates it, and you will even appreciate it deep down inside of your soul. That's right. Also, make sure that you hit subscribe if you have not subscribed to the channel already. We are just 15 people away from hitting 2,000 subscribers, so if you could help us out, help us hit over that hump. And all the articles that we cover today, you can read on our website at www.highat9news.com.
I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get yourself a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
That's right, baby. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology. I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on athletes who have chronic pain or injury due to their sport, or the legends of the chronic in the game, baby.
Oh, yeah, you know what it is. We just stretched, and now we're gonna smoke, because you know what it is.
That's right. I love intuitively creating a session based on the individual I'm working with. We'll go through a few assessments, look at the past health history, injury, or anything that's still affecting you today, and create a customized session just for you. Let's go. Woo!
They're arresting those people for buying from a smoke shop.
We got to keep it rolling.
Let's keep it rolling. Up next, I'm absolutely ecstatic to introduce the newest correspondent on the High at 9 News team, repping the great state of Colorado. With more than a decade of regulated industry experience under his belt, focusing on technology, data, specializing in operations, compliance, technology, development, implementation through Intel Can Company. He's also certified in Oracle data analysis, visualization, and cybersecurity, because we can all use a little bit of safety here on these interwebs. Y'all know what? His current projects are Grind, cannabis lifestyle brand for serious and professional athletes, and Little Dragon, a direct-to-consumer concentrate brand in California that uses AI and machine learning. He's speaking my language without even speaking yet. Y'all know who it is. Coming to the stage, Sohum.
Oh, yeah.
Shaw. Give him a round.
Thank you for that intro, Rico.
Yes.
It's so great to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me on the show. I'm excited to do my first segment. That was a really great intro. But I'm going to jump right into my story. Also, by the way, Jason, you forgot one thing when you were mentioning what day it is today. It's Taylor Swift's birthday. So happy birthday.
We did not celebrate Taylor Swift on this channel.
now it's on there.
Can't handle all that fabulousness.
Yes. All those Swifties.
Hey, don't fuck with Swifties. You're gonna have Swifties in the comments on YouTube.
I hope so.
We need more polarization.
Yeah. Bring all the Swifties, bro. Send them a kite.
Yeah, we love you.
All right. But yeah, so this week on Friday, Holland, also known as the Netherlands, is set to begin an experiment where they are licensing and regulating cultivation and transportation of cannabis. Well, a lot of people don't know that. I know those of us that are immersed in regulations and compliance on a day-to-day basis have known that the system that's existed with coffee shops in the Netherlands has existed as tolerated. So basically, they just allow people to go and buy 5 grams at a time from a coffee shop. They have really strict limits of what they're allowed to keep on hand in the shop, and they usually use safe houses nearby where they do daily or hourly drops with cash and product to make sure that they don't violate those legal limits. And this is particularly interesting for a couple reasons. So they're originally going to start with 2 legal growers that will be allowed to supply about 20 coffee shops in the cities of Breda and Tilburg. And then hopefully next year they're planning to expand it to additional cultivators. One cool thing about this is the only system I've seen where the government is actually allowing legal and black market product to be sold on shop shelves through a transition period. I don't think I've seen any legislation that's accounted for how to bridge that gap. Honestly, New York should take some notes here. They might be able to do something a little better than what they're doing. One other interesting part of this is it seems like they've done a full 180 from what their approach was to cannabis, in the past 10 or 15 years. There's been multiple attempts by the Dutch government to crack down on what they call narco-tourism, basically people going to Holland for the purpose of trying, space cakes or cannabis or whatever it is in the coffee shop. They got a lot of pushback from coffee shops because that would obviously crucify their business, and there's no way that they would survive on residence alone. But they had wanted to pass a law that basically said you have to have a resident identification card in order to buy cannabis in coffee shops. So from going from that to now where they're attempting to fully regulate the supply chain, I think is a huge step. I know Jason has some thoughts on this, but the last time they started talking about this, they basically pushed a lot of their distribution, especially for seeds, from Holland to Spain. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. It's also, on a personal note, I got a chance to interview the marijuana policy office for the mayor of Amsterdam's representative when she was in Colorado for a regulatory symposium about 8 years ago, and they were not terribly interested in the concept of licensing and regulating cannabis. So to see where they've come in the past 8 to 10 years, I think is a promising step, and hopefully Spain moves in a similar direction. They currently have a similar system where, you know, they tolerate the clubs, but the production is not licensed. So yeah, props to Holland, and interested in hearing what everyone else has to say.
I find it interesting how they are integrating, because the reality of how Amsterdam has always worked is like you're most able to get arrested if you're caught purchasing cannabis, where in America it's illegal to sell cannabis, but in Amsterdam it's illegal to purchase cannabis. So I find this very interesting, and especially how you said that they are going to be intertwining the illicit market in regards with their sales, because they have basically chased all of their growers a number of years out of Amsterdam, and they all fled to Spain when they started doing crackdowns on home grows throughout the country. And so this is very interesting, their whole shift. Or should I say swift?
Yeah.
Should I say
I think
swift?
it's really interesting.
Stop that, man. Can we get a poll? Is Jesse or Adam? Can we get a poll going? The Taylor Swift versus Nickelback versus 98 Degrees.
That's not even a competition. Yeah, that's not even a competition.
Let's see. I'm interested to see who everyone's gonna pick.
Taylor, I love you. Luke Scarmazzo, tap in with me.
I think
we love you.
I'm rolling with.
There's nothing remotely attractive about Taylor Swift.
I'm rolling with Nickelback.
In my ears.
98 Degrees.
Back on track, guys. Back on track. Sohum actually made a really good point too here about New York should take a page out of this book. Is how do we get the people that are in the traditional market, that want to be in the traditional market and survive in the traditional market? Like, where is the bridge and the transition period, and what do those things look like? And I think like that's the easiest thing. Like I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Like, hey, just make it like a moratorium period where anything can be on the shelf, tested, of course, but anything can be on the shelf, whether it's whatever it is. And then after a certain amount of time, they have to go through whatever kind of thing you want them to go through, whatever kind of process you want them to go through. That's kind of like interesting. I don't know if that would work. I'm not saying it would work. I'm just saying it's an interesting thing that maybe some other people should try to put or apply in the States. Who knows? It might work.
But if nothing else, at least they've taken the time to think about it and address the issue. I'm not saying the solution is perfect, but nor has it been anywhere else that we've seen cannabis regulation rolled out. But to see federal regulators actually address the issue of how do we bring legacy operators into a legal market, I think is a really positive sign.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I agree.
But
I agree.
That grace period already does exist in every market that has gone through their transition period. There's the point upon which the new law becomes effective, and whatever that grace period is, that's your time to decide how you're going to transition over. Many people just said, fuck that, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
and,
that existed. It existed. And also the same thing, and not that it worked well in every community, but it did exist to some extent where there's an opportunity for the community to give feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's required. Those periods do exist. Whether folks are paying attention enough and taking advantage of those opportunities is a different story.
The problem that I've they always do that just because it's a check of the box. Like, we have to open up community feedback for this many days, or in a meeting this many or this amount of time. And that's just a check off. They don't really consider what the community has to say in a lot of instances, in a lot of local government situations. And we dealt with that tremendously in the 215 era, when we would go to these city hall meetings, and it would be a tremendous outpouring of people. Hundreds of people would speak in favor. One or two would speak in opposition, and the city council would go completely opposite.
Mm-hmm. So I would like to say, observing this,
I don't think they become really effective in that sense.
Observing the developments from state to state, like over the years, here in California firsthand,
out in New York, listening to the community and not riding their own agenda.
Out in New York.
Let Rico go for a second. Hold on.
There is a grace period. There has been. And
observing from New York,
this was going to be
California
in 2018, on January 1st of 2018, we knew for almost 2 years, or at least a year and a half, that it was coming.
Mm-hmm. Hold on.
Hold on, Manndie. Let Rico go. Let Rico go.
What I've seen the issue being is the communities can't agree on what they want. And so they end up going with these asshole prohibitionists, or leaning towards what they want to do, or towards the corporations. The corporations stay on the same page. You know, if the communities don't talk to each other, and everybody thinks that my plight was worse than yours. We saw that shit firsthand every single city hall meeting here in Los Angeles. Did we not, Jason?
Yeah,
everybody's like, yo,
we practically saw
the Valley had it worse than South Central. South Central had it worse than East LA. East LA had it
in New York. Same thing in New York.
Yeah, and everybody, that is the problem, is people from the community can't get on the same page, and they end up going with whatever the corporations say. And it ends up being a bait and switch. You think that at first it's going to be all for the communities, but when these people say, oh yeah, you have to present 5 years worth of taxes that you pay, like what trappers are going to present any taxes paid. You have to show that you have to prove that you run a successful business for at least 2 years. Like, I gotta tell you, I gotta show my receipts from trapping now. Like, it ends up being a bait and switch that nobody can really qualify for. And I think that trying to work with these people and trying to integrate some of these players automatically from the jump into that system is the only way that you're going to mitigate the trap. You're never going to kill the trap. It's always going to be available. But the only way to take some of that power back is to allow them to operate side by side. Like my man Troy always says in the audience, open the damn market up. Mm-hmm. Let the people decide who they want to get it from.
This transition period is different too, right? Because they're not forcing every cultivator to immediately gain a license, right? There's only going to be 2 licensed cultivators, but they're not going to kill everybody else out of the market during that time. I don't know. I mean, maybe California for a short period of time where you could have licensed and unlicensed product in the store. But even that, I don't think we've ever seen that anywhere in the States, where they allow the trap brands to sit on the shelf next to the licensed brands, and then we'll slowly transition everybody to the point of being licensed.
Yeah, that only happens in areas where there's not a licensed market, Sohum.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't wait to see like all these big box licensed brands starting to rip off the labels of the trap. Rip it off.
That would be a good one. That would be the ultimate troll.
You mean corporations appropriating a culture?
Oh boy,
never heard of that before.
You know what? On all of that, we're gonna roll right on into Miss Manndie Tingler. She's a mom. She's a mom. She's an edibles judge for the Emerald Cup, and she is here to show you how being a cannabis executive and motherhood can all go hand in hand. That's right, is none other than Miss Manndie Tingler.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Today, I am bringing you some really good cannabis news. It's a short story, but a good one that'll leave you feeling warm and fuzzy about what we're doing in our industry. So my headline today reads, Arkansas using medical cannabis taxes to fund free school lunches. Arkansas is using medical cannabis tax revenues to fight food insecurity in the state, with an $87 million sent to schools throughout the state to help students access low-cost or free lunch. Medical Marijuana Commission spokesperson Scott Hardin said that the state has collected so far $115 million from the cannabis tax. He says if someone is on a reduced school lunch, they are now paying 50 cents to $1. That medical marijuana revenue steps in and pays that to cover the students and make sure that they get it for free. So really, students in the state will not be having to pay whatever the burden is, and it's completely eliminated now. The funds had previously been earmarked to help the University of Arkansas's medical school to obtain a National Cancer Center designation, but Hardin did not give any indication as to why this change was made. The article does go further in saying that since the medical cannabis program launched in the state of Arkansas, and again, this is medical, in 2016, they said the sales have topped $1 billion. And according to state data, there were 98,011 active medical cannabis ID cards in the state. And that was just as of December 2nd of this year. You guys, I just wanted to share this great news. I love when we hear what our community tax revenue is able to do in our communities. I would love any other really warm, fuzzy stories or updates that you may have heard of recently. And put this feather in the cap for Arkansas. Nicely done.
I think this is fantastic. And, you know, Arkansas has a pretty high poverty rate. So, you know, there's a number of kids that are going to be able to benefit that wouldn't normally be able to eat without this program in place. So I think this is a fantastic use of tax revenues going to a great cause, a great source. And I totally support this with any jurisdiction enacting a similar policy.
I think it's good. I think it's good.
Oh, sorry. I just want to give you one little more nugget. I looked at some statistics about Arkansas. 29% of its population is under the age of 18 now, and almost 50% of the households don't even meet minimum.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very impoverished state.
Yeah, on one hand, I do think it's good. It's a good program and everything. On the other hand, I'm like, if you're eating the school lunch, school breakfast, you shouldn't have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Period. I think kids should have the option. You know, a school lunch and school breakfast is trash, anyways. They shouldn't have to pay for it.
But now that it's paid for with weed money, they're probably going to get better food, Rico.
But on the flip side of that, like, there's going to come a point where these weed companies can't pay for those lunches anymore because they can't pay their own bills.
But the weed companies aren't paying for it. The consumer is paying for it through the taxes.
I think there's two sides to this, right? Like, one, yes.
I'm torn. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's positive on one end, but like the long-term effects, like this program is not going to be able to hold that up.
Hold on, Rico, if you were a kid in Arkansas and you all of a sudden you were getting fed a meal that you weren't having previously.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing on the short term. I'm talking about the long-term effect. It's not going to last like for long. I'm just all these cannabis companies in other states, are they still making all of these donations? No, they're trying to keep their lights on.
Yeah. I mean, I think the real issue with this type of thing, again, first let me clarify, like, if our tax dollars from our industry are going to anything, they should be going to free school lunch, not to law enforcement, even the amount of money that's given to rehab, regulation, all that stuff. Like, this is a great use of tax proceeds, but I think there's two issues with it. The one and main one is that stories like this become a poster child for legalizing for the purpose of generating tax revenue. And I think when that happens, that's very dangerous, because now you have exorbitant tax rates, excise taxes at the state or the county level, and that's what's going to perpetuate the legacy market. So again, I kind of like with what Rico said, like, if they're exclusively funding their free lunch program with cannabis tax dollars, like, I don't know how sustainable that is. The prices eventually over time with economies of scale and legalization are going to fall. So
yeah, but once they're doing it, Sohum, they're going to end up having to fill that, because that's going to look really bad to their voter base if they cancel that program in lieu of others.
We'll find another reason. There's always some other reason.
I think you guys agree. I think Rico makes a solid point on that. But this is I think what we're missing is these lunch programs are being paid for by taxpayers no matter what, whether the cannabis tax funds them or not, right? So now, because we are using the cannabis tax to do it, we get to kind of trumpet that and highlight that in like what Sohum said, in the sense of like being able to show this and say, hey, look, this generates tax dollars. I think that's actually a beneficial thing, in the sense of now we bring over some conservatives and some fiscal conservatives that can say, hey, look, wow, this actually generates some money here, and maybe that's something that we should look into, or maybe that's something that's feasible. Now, what has to happen after that is really high taxes that can't be sustained. Now those conversations can be opened. Like, okay, now that we're using these things for certain earmarks, let's make them so that they can be sustainable. Let's not make it a one-time buy. Let's look at the longevity of this tax coffer and be able to sustain these meals off of a cannabis tax for X amount of years going forward.
Yeah, and just real quick, the biggest economic booster in Arkansas is the agriculture industry, and you have a bunch of major corporations out there too. Why are they not paying for these free lunches already?
Oh, and
Tyson Foods has millions of square foot of chicken houses all over eastern Arkansas. Walmart is headquartered in Bentonville.
I'm super impressed. I continue to be impressed with the philanthropy and the constant giving back to the communities of the cannabis industry. But that's where we come from, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how about like some of these tax dollars that are not being paid by these major industries? How about those be diverted into these programs so we don't have to be the ones? We're the sacrificial lambs. We go out and we do this stuff like, oh, it's great. Let's legalize. And then when we're going out of business, crickets, right? There's nothing. They just let people go out of business and let these corporations take over. That's all I'm saying is these huge corporations that are not paying taxes already, make them fucking pay for it. And make cannabis do it too.
Rico,
why can't we all do that?
Rico, I've seen two really great comments in the chat today. One of them from Dr. Mark Chaldone, who said that Swifties smoke mids. And the second one is from Justin Benson, who says that they should be spending the money on birth control.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
I don't think birth control is legal in Arkansas.
Oh man, we got to roll the Luke.
Let's do it, my man. You got Luke intro?
Luke,
is that on me?
Oh, Luke had to dip.
Up next.
Luke had to dip.
Hey,
Luke had to dip.
Unfortunately, Luke had to leave right at 10.
No worries.
Okay. You want to paraphrase Luke's story? Are we going to go to Luke's story tomorrow? Roll it over.
Let's see. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, I think we have to roll it over.
Yeah, we might just roll this over.
Let's roll it over. Let's close it out. All right, y'all. Sorry about that, man. Luke, we love you. We love you, dope daddy. And that being said, we are at the top of the hour,
you can
everybody.
read it on highat9news.com.
Yes, you can. Check it out. So the more you know. Thank you all for joining us for yet another episode of High at 9 News. You can catch us live weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fans showing love, getting their comments posted live on the big screen. To our live audience and online supporters catching us across all media platforms, tuning in each day to the headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. To our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over. Big round of applause to our new guy, Sohum Shaw, please. Welcome to the team, my brother.
Thank you.
Our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing us a much-needed variety of perspective, your respected opinions to the table as well. To our production team, Cloud Media Partners, my man Adam holding things down. Does he have the sunglasses on today? Please tell me
he does. He does.
He's the coolest cat behind the scenes.
You should see his new haircut.
I'm a second. I see this. Is it feathered on the sides?
He's feathered. He's feathered.
Stop the cap. As always, Cannabis CTVL, the reason we show up to read these stories every single day. Thank you, boo. It has been Wednesday, December 13th, 2023. The show is over, and you've all been blessed with the top industry headlines. Hope it was enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until tomorrow. Sohum, new guy. You got the outro today, man. What you got? Some positive messaging for these people to take into their hump day.
Stay positive, smoke a blunt, keep your head up, power through the day, and happy birthday, Tay-Tay. Let's go.
Oh, man. Swifty smoke mids.